How do you know if you are taking time to recharge or if you are being socially avoidant? Y'all, this is a huge conversation because everybody, especially here in America, everybody is at risk of becoming socially avoidant, even the most extroverted of us. So, what is social avoidance? Social avoidance is what it sounds, avoiding social interactions. And because of work from home, because we can get anything literally delivered to us, food, groceries, any item that we ever want, we don't even have to leave our houses anymore to interact with other people. So this is really easy to fall into. So what I'm going to be going over today is I'm going to be explaining to you the structural, cultural, and even some of the psychological barriers that we face that prevent us from interacting with our communities, that create us being socially unfit and being socially avoidant. I am also going to go over the cycle that social avoidance creates, and then let me hold your face here. I'm going to give you some questions that you can ask yourself so that you can check in if you are being socially avoidant or if you are taking the necessary time to recharge, because it is important. So, hi, welcome back, Social Delighters, to the Socially Delightful podcast. If you're brand new, hi.
Hello there.
Welcome. Pull up a seat, get comfy. We have a great time here. My name is Jewel, and I've had the great privilege of working with people from all over the world on social anxiety, friendship, and honestly, charismatic leadership. And I've had the privilege of teaching workshops internationally and workshops in person across my state. So I'm so excited to talk to y'all about this today. This topic today is really going to change your life. But before I really dive into it, I need y'all to know that you do not need to leave this episode shaming yourself or feeling hopeless. We're going to be talking about today how it is not all your fault that you are feeling lonely or socially anxious. Again, there are structural and cultural barriers in the way here. And we're going to help you know how to increase your social fitness, decrease social anxiety, and create more connections and have a more fulfilling life because of it. So you do not need to leave this episode shaming yourself at all. And you do not need to leave this episode feeling hopeless that nothing can change, because yes, there are structural and cultural barriers in place, and there are things that we can do, as you've heard probably over and over and over and over again on this show. There are things that we can do to have more meaningful connection. Now we do not have to wait until society changes, because some of these changes are going to take a long time. We do not have to suffer with loneliness and social anxiety until it changes. And lastly, huge caveat here, my goal is not for you to listen to this episode and start forcing yourself into exhausting social plans. That is not what the Socially Delightful podcast is all about. Here we are all about enjoying, delighting in ourselves, in our authenticity, and in others, and in connection. So hang around, watch some other episodes if you want to fill your cup up with connection again. Okay, so if you've been wondering, am I taking care of myself? Or am I just avoiding people? This is for you. So, like I said earlier, everybody is at risk of becoming socially avoidant. I have seen it happen with even some of my most extroverted friends. And part of the reason why is we have structural barriers of having cars, truly, of working from home in our isolated, separate houses where we don't have to interact. And we've over-convenienced ourselves in our lives, as well as today's attention economy, which is fighting for every second of our lives. In the wise words of Bo Burnham, these things, these social media apps, they are coming for every second of our lives to grab our attention. So these are pretty big barriers in the way. Let's dive more into them. So historically, humans lived in tight-knit, interdependent communities where social interaction was unavoidable, and it was essential for their survival. I mean, even way back to hunters and gatherers times, daily life required social cooperation. However, in the past century, especially over here in America, we have shifted to extreme individualism, which reduced built-in opportunities for connection. So Researcher Robert Putnam released a book in 2000 called Bowling Alone. And in this book, he talks about that the membership of civic organizations, religious groups, and even informal activities like playing cards or having dinner with neighbors dramatically declined in the mid 20th century. This is before the smartphone. And since the smartphone, things have, gotten worse. But before the smartphone, before this book, Bowling Alone, was even released in year 2000, post World War II came the rise of suburbanization, and that meant that we were living in separate, spread out areas in the suburbs rather than living in walkable, community oriented neighborhoods. So cars replaced organic social interaction in a huge way. Instead of interacting with our neighbors and like walking around streets, we started commuting, right? This also resulted in a decline of front porches, less communal space, and again, like, of course, fewer interactions with neighbors. We also saw a decline in what is called third places. So when you think about Friends, all of the characters normally meet at the cafe. It's a third place. Think about How I Met Your Mother. They all go to that bar. It's a third place. A third place is between work and home where people gather, right? A community gathering space, right? So bookstores, churches, parks, right? These allowed for community engagement and fostered casual relationships. And with the decline of third places in modern America, which has gotten even worse post-pandemic, organic social encounters have decreased. This is also partially due because of a lack of third spaces, but also the rising cost of activities. Like, when did going to the zoo get so damn expensive? I just want to know. Another huge thing that was introduced to us after the smartphone and social media was eventually the attention economy. The attention economy is basically, right, people that get economic gain from our views, from our eyeballs, from us paying attention to it. And because of this, social media apps, even content creators like myself, are vying to keep you attention, to keep you paying attention to what we are doing. And what this does, y'all, is it dramatically cuts into our free time. So one of the best things you can do for your social fitness, your social health, for your connections is put a screen time blocker on your phone. The Apple ones are not good enough. Surprise, surprise. Because at this point, y'all, Apple knows our psychology. Like, you're not fooling anybody with that weak ass screen time thing. Get a screen time app that blocks your social media apps for certain times. I love the app Opal. I pay for it. It's kind of expensive, but there's other ones out there. Okay, social media is doing much more than just sucking up our time, though, and is also giving us anxiety. We're being overexposed to each other, and we're seeing all of the things other people are doing, and there's so many things I could say. It's just making us anxious as hell. Right? A study by the University of Pennsylvania found that limiting social media use to 30 minutes per day significantly decreased feelings of loneliness and depression. Like, it's not great because the constant exposure to curated social media images has a rise in social perfectionism. And if you're like, social perfectionism, what is that? It is basically you trying to be perfect in social settings. And it's also like the pressure to present yourself flawlessly in like every social interaction. And it has gone up. There are some experts that are also talking about how we're having a rise in friendship anxiety. Oh my goodness. Because we're seeing all of the things our friends are doing online, and then we might be like, oh, Sally just caught up with Catherine. I haven't talked to Sally in a while. Oh no, I was feeling really close to her, but maybe I'm not. Right? We don't need to know what everybody's doing, especially what so many people are doing. And y'all, we haven't even got to the global pandemic that took place, because the global pandemic, you remember her? COVID-19, still around to this day. She normalized social withdrawal in a way that I don't I think is unprecedented. Hot take, might be too soon to say, but many people adapted to staying at home and avoiding social interaction and creating habits of social avoidance during this time. So much so that the US Surgeon General called for a loneliness public health crisis, right? And I think this is also made worse by the rise in work from home and even online education. Now, I am getting my master's online. I don't talk to my classmates. I don't even see my professors. My professor did call me one time, though, and I thought that was really nice. But the shift to remote work and online learning has removed the natural socialization from daily life. Surprise, surprise. Big surprise, surprise, surprise. Right? In the American Time Youth Survey, remote workers reported 2 hours less daily social interaction than in office workers, increasing feelings of loneliness and detachment. Y'all, when I was networking after the pandemic and like meeting people, I could not tell you how many people would almost like whisper to me, my social anxiety has gotten so bad since the pandemic. So let me go over the social avoidance cycle and why this is. So, when we start spending more of our time scrolling on social media, working from home, not interacting with people, we can develop the habit of social avoidance, and we can start avoiding social interaction in general. Maybe we start whipping our phone out more when we have to be in public settings. Maybe we absolutely dread leaving the comfort of our homes. What this is going to do is this is going to increase isolation and loneliness. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise, surprise. We spend less time connecting with people. Hello, social and fitness. What this is going to do is also going to increase our social anxiety and lower our social confidence. And then when it finally comes time to start socializing again, that feels even more draining, because now we have feelings of loneliness and we have social anxiety, we have a lack of confidence. And so it takes more work to socialize and it becomes more exhausting, which leads us to avoiding socializing even more. A study from Harvard's Making Caring Common project found that many young adults lack basic conversational and relational skills due to increased digital interaction over face-to-face interactions and experiences. More people are finding socializing draining and exhausting rather than fulfilling. I mean, you just have to take a look at any pop culture meme, and it's all about glad plans are canceled. Research from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that people who avoid social interaction due to fatigue actually experience more exhaustion over time as they deprive themselves of the energy boost that social connection provides. Because, surprise, surprise, when you're not being meaningfully connected and you're going through this cycle, it's going to result in you not being energized as much by connection. And guess what, y'all? Even if you are introverted and you need more low stimulation time, that doesn't mean you don't need meaningful connection. So, what can we do about this? So, I'm going to give you some signs that you need alone time and some signs of social avoidance. So, some signs that you need alone time, some signs of healthy solitude are that you enjoy your alone time and you feel refreshed afterwards. Another sign is you don't feel anxious or guilty about skipping a social event, right? Third one, you do socialize regularly. And that doesn't have to mean like going and hanging out in a bunch of groups. It could mean going to a community event or engaging regularly with your closest friends. But you socialize regularly and then you feel balanced between connection and solitude. And then sign 4, you still value friendships and you return to them when you are ready. So those are some signs of healthy solitude. Some signs of social avoidance are you want to connect, but feel too anxious, overwhelmed, or even exhausted to do so. Another sign of social avoidance is that you tell yourself, over and over again. I'll go next time, but you keep delaying social plans. A third sign of social avoidance is that you feel a sense of relief from avoiding a social interaction, but you also feel loneliness. A key difference, y'all, is that the solitude is recharging you and the social avoidance is leaving you feeling more emotionally drained over time, more lonely over time, because loneliness is draining. So, a question that you can ask yourself is, do I feel peaceful and content, or do I feel anxious and guilty? Another question is, do I look forward to spending time alone, or do I feel like I have to be alone? That one is really key because sometimes if you just have social anxiety in general, you might be like, well, I still feel anxious about going to the event. But, or I've even seen some cases of social anxiety where we're like, I have fear missing out. But I think overall, check within yourself, deep within your body. Overall, do I feel peaceful and content, or anxious, guilty, and lonely, right? A key difference here is that healthy alone time, for the most part, will bring some sense of inner peace, while social avoidance will leave lingering doubt and regret. Two really big questions that I like that I think are so helpful are, do I feel content being alone, or am I just relieved to have avoided something, right? Content equals solitude. Relief equals avoidance. Another question, does my alone time make me feel more like myself or more disconnected from others? More like yourself equals solitude, equals recharge time. Disconnected from others equals avoidance. Now, if you are struggling in the social avoidant trap and you are like, oh my gosh, Jewel, I am in that cycle. Again, nothing to be ashamed of, and you don't need to feel hopeless. Let's help you. So, here are 5 things that you can do to break out of your social avoidance pattern without overextending yourself. So, first thing you can do is set time limits, right? When you have a plan come up, instead of just being like, nope, I'm not going to go, and instead of having to commit to the entire time, give yourself a time limit. Be like, okay, I'm going to go, and I'm going to go for like an hour, and then I'm going to come home, right? Give yourself time limits. The second thing that you can do, and this is absolutely huge, is to put on your connection glasses. I don't know if you're sick of me talking about connection glasses yet, but it's so important. Connection glasses, right, is you putting on the lens of seeing connection. Especially when we are socially anxious or rejection sensitive, it's easy just to notice the negative social feedback that we're getting. It's easy to notice, oh, they didn't laugh at my joke. Oh, they haven't reached out to me. I'm always the one that reaches out. It's easy to notice those things and to miss the moments where somebody sent us a kind and loving and encouraging text, or when somebody initiated with us and asked us to go out for coffee, or when our story got cut off in the group interaction and somebody looped back around and said, hey, finish your story. So put on your connection glasses. I would even think of 3 things, 3 ways people have invested in you, or 3 ways that you felt connected recently, and go for those small moments. So, first one, set time limits. Second one, put on your connection glasses. Third thing you can do is to plan social aftercare. So, when you leave a social event and your brain is like, oh my gosh, I'm socially anxious, I'm thinking about all of the things that I said, that I did wrong, or I'm feeling exhausted, do some social aftercare. Give yourself a loving, a squeeze, right? Do some tapping if you like that. And think of the meaningful ways that you just connected. Again, put on your connection glasses, if you will. I really recommend, I did this for a year and it changed my absolute life, is after every single social event, I wrote down the ways that I felt connected at that event and the ways that I loved that I showed up. That was my social aftercare for a year. It changed my life. Another thing that you can do is you can do small social snacks, if you will. So getting in the habit of, if you see somebody and you're getting in the elevator with them, like asking how their day is going. That's a good social snack, a good rep for your social fitness. Sending a quick text when you think of somebody. I'm even a big fan of just sending that message, even if it's kind of late, and being like, hey, I know it's late, but I just wanted to tell you that I am thinking about you. Hope you're well. So, social snacks in that way. And then, lastly, and this one's going to be so powerful, you can use a decision filter. You can ask yourself before you go to any social event, what is kind and what is for my growth? I got this from Vicki Louise. It's absolutely genius. So, what is kind and what is for my growth? Because if you have a social event on Friday and you were like, wow, I've really been in my social avoidance era. I've been avoiding people. I'm feeling a bit anxious. Work was a bit overwhelming this week. You can ask yourself, okay, what is kind? All right, well, what is kind is that maybe I give myself some time to just like relax and like have a bubble bath, something along those lines, time to regulate my nervous system even and do some breathing techniques. And then what is for my growth is to step out of my social avoidant pattern and to go for an hour, right? Ask yourself, what is kind and what is for my growth? And if you are worried about draining your social battery, you can learn what social batteries are and how to manage them in this previous episode we have done before. And my final thought, the final thing I want to leave with y'all, now a final thought for y'all, I need you to know that needing alone time is about self-care. Social avoidance is about fear, it's about avoidance, right? And the key is to notice whether something is restoring you or leaving you feeling lonely and stuck. And you can often find this trend if socializing is feeling harder and harder rather than easier. You're probably in a social avoidance cycle, and it's okay. Now, some of you might be listening to this and might be like, oh my gosh, but I'm introverted. That's also fine. You have no need to shame yourself for being an introvert. Being an introvert is not the same as being socially avoidant by any means, which is why if you are an introvert, honestly, or if you are a socially anxious extrovert, you're definitely going to want to check out that episode on social batteries. But that is what I have for y'all today. Those are the structural, cultural, and some of the psychological barriers to connection. I hope y'all have a delightful day. I would love to know what this episode means to you. So it would mean so much to me if you could leave me a review, comment, tell me. It would make my absolute day. And I will see you next time.